We've also been talking about something that's happening, the 20th edition of
the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. It takes place on Sunday. The day is here. In less than 4 days, that happens. And a little bird whispered into my ear this morning that it is okay. You have out-registered yourselves. You've done well. Now we want to come and run on the 29th. Yes. Yes.
To talk about now that running on the 29th and also the virtual run this year, we are joined by Kariuki Ngari. Kariuki is the MD and CEO for Standard Chartered Kenya and East Africa. He's here alongside Peter Gitau, who is the chairman of the local organizing committee of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Kariuki, you're occupying the hot seat. Peter is occupying the other one. Just so we're clear.
Okay.
Karibuni sana.
Asante sana.
So we'll be talking about running and why 20 years. It's an important thing. I mean, you're looking back at 20 editions of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon, Kenya's single largest one-day sporting event, and it's a big thing. Getting into that detail shortly. But CT has the day's proverb. This week's proverbs are from Zanzibar.
Yes.
So you're MD for Kenya and East Africa. So you know Zanzibar. It's part of East Africa.
Otherwise known as
Unguja.
not Ugunja. Ugunja is where Opiyo Wandayi is MP. Yes.
It is Unguja.
Ugunja.
All right.
Not Ugunja. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Ukipenda boga, penda na ua lake.
Ukipenda,
Boga
penda,
na ua lake. Not mboga,
not mboga.
boga.
But boga ni mboga. Sorry.
Yes. it
Kweli
could be.
kabisa.
Ni kweli. Tena kabisa kabisa.
Pia boga ni mboga.
Pengine pia.
Utaju-
Yeah, na
No,
pia
but
unga.
you know what they say. Utajua nini sio mboga.
Exactly. Na mara nyingi mboga pia ni kitoweo.
You know what mboga is? What boga is, Kariuki?
I think I know.
What is it?
Cabbage.
Sio.
Yeah,
Okay,
in a
sawa.
bus.
All right.
No,
Yes,
sawa kabisa.
Peter, what is boga?
I know mboga, but I don't know what boga is.
I knew it was a trick question.
No.
Some hint here, City.
It grows near the ground.
So it grows at
It's a
least.
creeper.
It's a creeper.
At least it grows.
It
green.
is oval in shape.
Sometimes round.
Sometimes, yes, cylindrical.
Many times people are told their head looks like it.
And the word that is normally used to describe it begins with an M.
Sometimes you're told not to be carried like it.
Ma,
Usinibebe ma.
le,
Okay.
bas.
Malenge.
Malenge is boga.
Good. I've learned something new today.
Yes. If you love a pumpkin, also love its flower. That is what the proverb is.
That's what the
translated
proverb
into
is
English.
What do you think this proverb is saying, Kariuki?
If you love a pumpkin,
Pumpkin, love also its flower.
I think it means that if you like the vegetable, if you dry it and make whatever comes out of it, also love it as well. So the product of what you love, in whichever shape and form, you should love it just as much. That is what I think it means.
Peter?
Yeah. I'll draw parallels to, a local song that says you can't take the cow and forget the tether. So I think if you want to take something, then you take it holistically.
If it
Makes
were
sense.
Yes, if it were an exam and the scale was 1 to 10, both of you would get 11.
Thank you.
When we ask for your opinion, it is not possible for you to be wrong.
It is your opinion.
It is your opinion. That's how you see it.
Good.
Yes.
Yes. That's very
There's somebody on YouTube who's saying that pumpkin is uyoga. Yoga is mushroom.
good. Okay, it's quiet. This sort of, they're
Yeah,
quiet.
because uyoga is actually mushroom.
It's mushroom. But
Yes.
That's a Kenyan Swahili, It's always different.
Okay. The 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon is taking place, the physical run, this Sunday in different parts of the country. Kariuki, why? Let's look back at the 20th edition this year. What's different about it?
I think when first of all, when we look back when we started in 2003, I don't think that when we started we thought we'll get how far we've come, and it just shows the tenacity and the belief that we are doing something different. And this year, what is going to be really different is how we've elevated sustainability matters into a marathon. Long ago, we never used to take sustainability. It was not the thing that we were doing. But today's marathon, when you talk about the marathon, and you'll see that on Sunday, in terms of the way we are going to hydrate the athletes, we are going to use paper cartons. Tetra Pak has provided that. We've really worked hard to ensure that we don't have any plastics. We want to ensure that these years as well, just like last year, we're going to recycle the entire waste. Last year, we recycled everything, 100% of the plastic bottles, and everything else we used was completely recycled. Mm-hmm. And also this year, we want to ensure that every runner who runs is going to go home with a tree to plant. So we expect to transplant over 25,000 trees. And that goes in line with what our ambition is, to plant more than 3 million trees in the next 3 years. So we are creating, the marathon is not just a run, one-day event. We want to create that impact. We want to ensure that it's sustainable. We want to ensure that the athletes, and especially the elites, who may not have a chance to leave the country, they can come and compete in an international event at home soil. That's what is going to be different.
What informed this decision, this thing that you've just described? It makes for very interesting listening. So you're not just running.
You're not just running.
No. There's everything, all these things around it. What informed this?
In Standard Chartered, we believe our purpose is we're here for good. So you've got to look and see how we're impacting the communities, how we're impacting the areas, the places that we are doing the business. And the idea of the marathon, which started 20 years ago, it started as a global event celebrating 150 years, Standard Chartered globally. And the theme then was raising money for seeing is believing. So that time for up to 2019, all the funds we are raising were going to for seeing is believing. And in that time, we raised over 600 million shillings, creating a big impact to people who did not have, who had challenges on site. And the last 3 years, we moved on to something else. We are calling it the Future Makers. Again, to ensure that we are raising funds to be able to impact society in terms of matters of employment, entrepreneurship, and so we look at this and say, how do we continue creating the big impact that we want to create? And then you have to look at it and say, make sure it's fun. Not only, how do you involve a lot more people? I mean, people can say, you can just raise funds directly by asking people, could you donate to this? No, but if you don't create a fun event where people can participate, where people can bring themselves, and not just individually, but also as families, that makes a difference. That is why we went this route. That we want to create an event that is fun for individuals, for families, and for corporates as well.
For sure, when you see something that has happened over 20 years, obviously there's longevity and there's impact that has been created. Can you walk us through some of the impact that we've seen? Actual seeing that, we talk about seeing is believing, and the different people who've been impacted by as a result of the marathon. What are some of those success stories that we saw over the years that have actually shown the impact that this event has had?
Yeah, I can pick up a few that have really been, when you look at the history and you read the stories, it's really impactful. There's one young girl, I think her name was Christine, who had a challenge with eyesight. And at 3 years, when we were in this program, we came across her, and we managed to sponsorship for her to get an eye operation at Kikuyu Eye Center. And for the first time in 3 years, she saw her mother. I mean, that was very emotional for all of us. She went through the process of operation, and then obviously, after that, your eyes are covered, and then after everything, she had healed, and then there's mother, and she looked at the mother for the first time in 3 years. And you look at that, you say, that's the impact you're creating. We've created impacts where there's another gentleman who was born blind, went all the way to the university. We came across, he was introduced to us. He went through an operation, full sight restored. He's a pilot today. So that's really life-changing events. So when you look at some of these things, and then there's a lot of other events that we've organized. A few we've organized, whether it's the preventive care. How do you help some of the communities, some of the counties that have challenges with cataracts? So you're able to go and educate them on how they can avoid that. How can they manage the eyes? And that has a big impact. When you raise 600 million, it creates a very, very big impact. When you look at the future makers now, in just the last 3 years, when you look at some of the impacts you're creating with the girls, because we have a program called the Gold Girls, which we fund through the future makers. Again, you're looking at people who do not have the confidence, especially from the disadvantaged areas, bringing those girls and educating them through sports, how to be more confident about themselves, how to live a more purposeful life, taking through training program for entrepreneurship, and then seeing them launching businesses. That is impactful. Because once you see somebody, you've taken them through the training, then they launch their own businesses, you've changed their lives forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Peter, let's look back at those 20 years, right? In terms of participation and interest in the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon, if you look back at the first one 20 years ago and the kind of registration that you've seen this year, how's that curve looking like? Have there been bumps? Is it a sine wave? There's some years where people feel like ran too much, buona.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people feel, okay, maybe this time.
Yeah, I think it was steady in the beginning. We started with less than 1,000 runners in our first race. Within 3 years, we were at 4,000, and we've hit highs of 19,000. So over the last 20 years, there's been that growth. Has it been bumpy? We've had some bumps along the way, and I think it goes to the resilience of the race. In 2013, our race in October was a month after Westgate, so there was a lot of concerns about safety, and the security agencies came in and provided that assurance to the public. In 2017, we had to change the date because it clashed with the second presidential election. And our biggest challenge was 2020 with COVID. And we did not have a race that year. But we pivoted. We thought, why don't we spend some time with athletes and train them on how they can use the finances they get for the races, and the virtual concept came in. So we moved into that. So come 2023 this year, registration stands at just over 21,600. We closed registration. We were determined to close registration early because it gives us a chance to go through the data, identify elite athletes, make sure that the experience for elite athletes, is towards international standards. And we're grateful. I think when we reopened post-COVID last year, 2022, because 2021 was a small race because of restrictions, we saw people coming back. And part of it, I think, is we've all seen, and I can see you guys look fitter than the last time we met, right? Yeah. So we've all seen people taking help. Yes. Fitter is a key word. So people are more keen on matters health. So more interest, shifts. So there's been some interesting shifts. So originally a lot of interest was in the 5K, 10K. But you can see the growth of the 21K, the 42K over time.
People are actually moving into those longer races.
People are moving into the longer races.
People are moving.
I know a friend of mine, Tony Maina, who told me he's actually been working towards the 21 kilometer. And he's like, it's a tough one, but I'm going to brace it and run it. I said, what is it that would motivate some people to move into this? Is it that you're challenging yourself? Is it that you've seen others doing it, so you're thinking, well, why not?
I believe you challenge yourself. You challenge yourself. You look at it and look, you've been running 10. When you start training for 10, then 10 starts getting easy. And then you just say, let me try the 21. Then you find, you can do 21. Then before you know it, you're doing the 42. And the route, the way we are going, in the not so distant future, we will probably not be having the 10 anymore. We'll just be doing 21 and 42, because the kind of the status we want to have for the marathon, the World Athletic Label, and some of the conversations we're having is that's the route that we have to go, because we really want, in the next 20 years, that people will be sitting in the studio, I hope. They'll not be talking about 10, 5 and 10. We'll be talking about an international marathon that is run in Africa.
Being one of the
Kenya.
majors.
Yeah, we're one of the majors now. So those, when you start talking about this, the majors, you have to start preparing for it.
Yeah.
You have to start preparing for it. And that's why I was very excited when this time we closed on time. We've never closed on time. I've always debated with Peter. You keep on telling people you'll close on 21st of October, and then you always extend by a week. So this time we closed on time. Now we're having the usual Kenyan challenge, Kenyans trying to find out who they know within the bank. Please register me. It's too late now. It's too late.
It's closed.
It's closed.
It's closed and gone.
Yeah.
Also, there's been now the progression of Nairobi and roping in other runners from other parts of the country and other parts of the world. Where are we running this year?
That came out because of COVID. I mean, that time, obviously, 2021? 2020. That it was, we couldn't do the physical, we couldn't congregate all of us in one place. So we introduced the physical, the satellite runs. And in some of our branches, especially in Mombasa, Kisumu, Kakamega, it's very, very popular. So we let that happen, and it has gone very, very well. In fact, even just last week, we had the marathon in Juba. There was a community there that said, "Hey, we want to participate. Just send us all the materials, send us the logos that we need to do." And we had an excellent run in Juba last week on the last Sunday. So the popularity has grown. And now what we encourage is, if you're not able to physically come to Nairobi, from wherever you're in the world, run. Just run.
One of the trends that one sees in this country, in fact, that's what I was looking at, is we are experiencing a proliferation of marathons. There was one which was about the Eldred Marathon. There's the 10 Marathon on the 12th. Now, would you say, and all of them have a theme, interesting, would you say, even if one was to stretch one's imagination, that the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon has actually opened the door and influenced people into understanding that a marathon is not just a run. There's a lot more. And I'm saying that because I'm looking at the themes that these marathons have. It's a theme that has to do with something that benefits people.
Yes.
Yes.
That's correct. Because even if you look at all the majors, that's what they do. Whether it's Berlin, New York, Chicago, it's not just a run. First of all, they are raising money for charity. So, and there's a theme. They are raising money for a reason. That's the same thing. That's what we do for us when you are raising money now for our future makers, for our community projects. So, and that creates. You don't want just to run for the sake of it. You don't want just to tell people come run. And we are excited that we've opened the way. We've opened the doors when we see the proliferation of these marathons. We are very excited when we see that, because also at the beginning, when I talk to the people who were there in 2003, 2004, it was tough to start. I mean, telling people you're closing roads, it was unheard of. What do you mean closing the roads
on a Sunday?
On a Sunday. So, but over time now, the kind of partnerships we developed with the various stakeholders, whether it's Nairobi County, the Kenya Police, and a lot of other stakeholders, everybody is aligned in terms of when you start the planning around the month of April, March, April, when you start the planning, people know what they need to do. And everything just sinks in, and now it becomes easier. So I believe that has opened the doors. So if it's in another city, they want to do a marathon, whether it's Eldoret Marathon or Mombasa Marathon, or wherever, the authorities there or the people know what needs to be done. And we have led the way, and we are very proud of that.
This is great, because I remember the last year when we had a conversation around the marathon, and we said, you know what, people are getting into this lifestyle of being a little bit fitter. People are getting to a place where, and a lot of it was contributed to because of COVID, right? And people were stationary, and then you started to get cabin fever, and so then people started to come out. The marathon was then something to look forward to, because then it helped you have a goal and you could set it for that. So a lot of people got into that, and we've looked at the progressions that were made over time. Why this is also extremely exciting is that because you have twin goals, that you can do your fitness and participate in this world-class marathon, but at the same time that you register for a marathon that helps you be directly involved in making, even if it is one person's life, better. And
Exactly.
We've seen the progression over that, with that over the years. you've given us, fantastic stories of how lives have been changed. And the question then is, how much more would this marathon want to do? Because that's essentially what it is. This marathon is making sure that lives are being changed, that those who are, a little less advantaged have an opportunity to, be part of something that could change their lives. How much more are we seeing that we want that to grow over the years? In as much as we're saying we want the marathon to grow,
I think definitely we'd like it to grow, and that's why. And apart from the direct link that are very, very specific, because the registration fees goes to the specific, you want to help change people's lives. What is another big impact? We want to create the sustainability matters, so that when you run and you go away with a tree, you're making a big contribution. We're talking about the Kenya Kwanza government. The president has talked about how can we increase our forest cover. So by just running, if nothing else, you'll go away with a tree. And not only that, you start getting interested. Because if you're just going away with a tree, you'll ask yourself, where do I plant this tree? How do I take care of it? How do I ensure it grows? And this is my contribution. So when all of us individually start saying, this is going to be my contribution to the climate challenge, this is what I'm going to do, it makes a very big difference. The impact also when you talk about the recycling all the waste, really, that's also, you're teaching people something that you don't have to, because you've had a marathon or you've had a major sporting event and then the whole streets are littered with that forever. We see what happens in our city after campaigns. It's full of posters all over the place. You're just trying to send a message that it does not necessarily need to be done that way. So apart from the direct impact that you make when you make that contribution, it's also to look the wider and say, how else am I ensuring that this marathon is sustainable, and I'm actually, by running, I'm leaving this environment better than I found it. Do you want to add?
Oh, I think that's well covered. The part that you've touched on health is important, because another impact we want to have is with persons with disability. So with time in the marathon, we've developed the wheelchair race. We have a 21 kilometers wheelchair race, but we've expanded our partnership. And last year we had persons with other disabilities, hearing disabilities, seeing disabilities, participate in the corporate challenge and in the 10K. And now this year we have some on the 21K. So it's also providing a platform for persons with disability to compete. So lots of impact. Yeah.
And also with persons with disability, what we've done this year, and we are doing a lot more this year, is organizing training for them. So that they for the last, since the month of July, they've been under a program to train them. Because it's very easy to say you register then show up, but a marathon you don't just show up. No, it can be pretty tough. But seeing them really being trained, and then during that training, they are getting training on not only the races themselves, but also on nutrition, how to take care of themselves. It makes a big difference. We've seen the impact it's creating. So it's not just the runners, but also when we see the people with disabilities, and that's making a very, very big impact.
Time for a break. It's 7:30. Kenya's biggest conversation is hosting Kariuki. Ngari. He's the managing director and CEO of Standard Chartered Kenya and East Africa. Peter Gitau is the chairman of the local organizing committee of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. The 20th edition is going down this Sunday, flagging off at Uhuru Gardens, running along the southern bypass. We're discussing more and more about it, the impact, the theme for this year, the thinking behind the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon, and the impact that it has had so far. 20 years is actually a big achievement. When we come back, this conversation continues. Now it's a more opportunity to, now that the bosses are here, to pitch to be the next VO for Standard Chartered ad. Standard Chartered, here for good. So boss, niko hapa for the next. Spice. Conversation continues about the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon, the 20th edition, going down this Sunday, the 29th of October, 2023. We have in the studio Kariuki Ngari, the MD and CEO of Standard Chartered Kenya and East Africa, and Peter Gitau, who's the chairman of the local organizing committee of this Nairobi Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Peter, you've mentioned a number of times when we're having this conversation, the elite runners. Who's an elite runner? Who's this Mheshimiwa?
Okay. So we've structured the race in such a way that there's an opportunity for those who are running professionally to run and get a time that they can use internationally. So elite runners are runners who have run within a certain amount of time, depending on the race, 42, 21, and 10 kilometers. And therefore, they are recognized in the race, and they are allowed to be at the front of the race as we take off. It's an exercise that takes some time, because you've got to go to the history of the runner. You've got to check how they've performed in the past. This year, we have about 300 people who have put their hands up as elite runners, and Athletics Kenya is helping go through their databases just to confirm that. On average, we get about 150 to 180 elite runners. So that's an elite runner.
So this time it's like double.
It's like double. There's been a bit of impact for some races that have been cancelled in the country, so that has meant that people who are training will now be able to participate in this, because they hardly run more than one race a year, maybe every 6 months. So that's what we're looking for. We're excited that we've got that interest, and we've made some adjustments to also accommodate them this year.
What is it that attracts an elite runner to the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon? Where would somebody now say, all right, I'm an elite runner, I'm a professional runner, I will use the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon as one of my races that are programmed for this year?
Yeah. So over the years, what we have done is established an AIMS certification. So the route is measured and certified by AIMS. So what that means is that if you run the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon, you can use your time to then enter into other races, including world majors. So that's one of the key attractions. We use technology, cheap technology, through the race, just to make sure that results are credible. So that allows that qualification to be a credible qualification that they can use for other races.
Yeah. So tell us about the virtual run, because folks who can't be there on the 29th for one reason or the other then have an opportunity. I think it's a fantastic thing. But then exactly how does that work for folks who are saying, is it, okay, I've registered, but I want to go virtual. What do I do? And why come up with that? Obvious, because,
Yeah. So the virtual run was quite relevant during the time we had COVID restrictions. So 2020, especially 2021, when we were opening up. What the feedback we got is that people want to run physically, they want to congregate. So what we did, we made satellite runs. So instead of a virtual run, we've got satellite runs. So like in Kenya, we've got one in Kisumu, one in Kakamega, and one in Mombasa, where our branch colleagues have organized, with communities and partners to have people participate. So the virtual run was stepped down in that regard. But what we've always encouraged people is, if you have registered, you can also run wherever you are, and you can participate, especially in the Future Makers Initiative, and raising money for the charity. So we sort of stepped it down. I know a couple of years ago it was a big thing. We were running something within the website where you'd put in your time and you'd also qualify and get a certificate. So we've sort of moved it to more satellite runs as opposed to a virtual run.
So what are the times this year, this Sunday? By what time should I be at Uhuru Gardens? By what time is the warm-up? Who's doing the warm-up?
Okay.
Where are the water stations?
Yeah.
The medals. What color are the medals this year?
So we've got a special T-shirt this year. We've got a special medal this year. So one time you have that one. It's written 20 years. It's a special edition.
Nice.
So the 42-kilometer run starts at 6 a.m. So assembly time is at 5 a.m. The 21 kilometers wheelchair race actually starts at 5:45, just before the
so 21 kilometer wheelchair, 5:45.
So assembly time is we're asking people to come at 5 a.m. for that. For the 42 at 6 a.m., we're also asking the participants to come at 5. The 21 kilometers race starts at 6:30. So we're asking people to come at 5:30, 1 hour before. The 10 kilometers is at 8. So we are asking that people start assembling at 7. And the 5 kilometers is at 9:30. So people can assemble at 8:30.
Okay.
This year we really want to appeal, for participants to come at the time when there are races. In the past, and we are really managing.
Everybody was coming at the same
the
time.
road closures. Exactly. So the road closures are such that you can access the event venue throughout the day. Car parking is at Carnival Ground, so you can drive in at any time with ease. So in the past, we've had a lot of congestion, people coming in the very early morning, and everyone is there for a long time.
Yeah.
So we're encouraging people to come at those times to make it easier on traffic.
We also encourage people to carpool as well. We are trying to conserve the environment, so if you can carpool, even the better. We've partnered with PTG, then you can use their electric bikes and electric cars as well. So we just want to see how we can minimize the crowding and also to minimize the damage to the environment as well.
I have to ask this question. In your planning, do you cater for the vagaries of weather? If it's very hot or it starts raining and the deluge, or is that just part of the fun?
In marathon, that's part of the fun. I mean, in marathon, anything can happen. So, but the way it's looking, the weather forecast is looking good. We only plan that at where the main event is taking, the finishing place, where you are awarding the medals. That is where you can take care of that. That's where you'll put up the tent. But the rest is it's an open road race. So you handle what is there. People train for all sorts of conditions while running. So any of the runners, not just the elite, but any of the runners, if he trains, they'll submit the times. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, please, Eric.
Yeah, I was just about to say, in other races, for example, just before a race starts, they already are looking at the weather forecast. They're working very closely with the local Mets. They can say, so we are expecting this kind of wind this morning. We're expecting this kind of, temperatures and all that. Does the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon work with the Met to know, okay, so for example, Sunday, we expect that the sun will rise at 3 a.m. and there'll be a cold southerly wind by 6:45. Do you get such kind of details?
Yeah. So
at least for the elite runners.
Yeah. In our local organizing committee, we have the National Disaster Management Unit. And they play two roles. One, they play the role of helping us anticipate. So this year there was a significant amount of time they spent on El Nino. What if El Nino happens? What advice would they give around that? And the second one is on emergency response. So in case there's something that happens that we need to respond to either medically or otherwise. So yes, so we engage the authorities accordingly. As Kariuki has said, it's an what do you call it? All weather sort of event. So whatever happens, you still run the race. But we do have that kind of knowledge within and skill within the local organizing committee.
And also to manage. You talked about if it's hot. We have enough water stations for hydration. So that is something that we worked very hard with our partner Tetra Pak to ensure that we've got sufficient water for the runners, because that makes a big difference. Yeah.
In the years that the Standard Chartered Marathon has been in place, do you have runners who began their debut of marathon running in Standard Chartered who have then gone to compete favorably in the majors?
Yeah, yes, we do. We have, I think, two come to mind. One is Dennis Kimeto. Dennis Kimeto, at one point, was a world marathon record holder. His first international, or rather, his first road race was a 21 kilometers Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon race. So, quite an achievement from there, and over time, gone to the majors and broke the world record. We've got Irene Jerotich. I believe she won 2 London marathons. Again, started her career on the 21 kilometers Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. There are quite a number of names. I think the way we look at it for elite runners, it's a launch pad. So we'll try our level best to present a route that's well measured, and that's good to run on. And they can participate in the race, get their times, and then grow in their careers.
You mentioned the majors and perhaps the aspiration that at some point the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon would be considered a major. What needs to be done so that you actually enter that particular league?
I think first of all is to continue honing the organization of it, because that's what really they look at. The timing is very, very important. The distances, that they're accurate, and that's what Peter is alluding to, ensuring that the distances are very accurate. And then the entire flow, how it flows from beginning to the end, that is very, very important. Every year we learn a lot of things. We get feedback from the runners, so it's making sure that we are taking that feedback into account, whether it's the watering stations, how you start, especially with the elites. Are you ensuring that the elites are protected? Normally the elites will be in the front, but how do you ensure that they are protected? How do you ensure that in terms of anti-doping measures, it's being done and being done on properly? And that is something that we work very closely with Athletics Kenya and anti-doping agency as well. Then how you finish as well. The finishing is also very, very important. And just the entire organization of it. If in case of an emergency, what happens, in case of anything that can happen within the organization, that is what they look at. And this time we've invited some officials to come and have a look, because we would like to get they call the World Athletic Label. And that is, to us, that would be a big thing. The World Athletic Label is a big thing, because once you get that label, then it means if you participate in this becomes very, very attractive for other international runners as well, because that's what people, that's the very, very top elite, that's what they look at. They look at what kind of race it is. Is it considered one of the majors? We don't want to keep on saying it's a launch pad. Not anymore. I think now we're 20 years old. You're an adult.
But it could be both. I mean, it could be a launch pad.
Exactly, for the locals.
Yes,
exactly.
But then at the same time, it could be an A listing.
Exactly. But so it's working with those and ensuring that we fine tune all those kind of issues to ensure that it's a world class event, well organized, and it runs smoothly for everybody who is participating.
Now I have to ask.
Yes.
Standard Chartered is not a philanthropic organization. Has all this helped the bottom line for Standard Chartered? Where, like after this, you'll be telling us
shareholder value.
Let me say this.
Yes.
It's not all about the bottom line. It's the impact that you create to the society. Most of the people who run our clients, they are business, they are stakeholders, they could be our suppliers, we do business with them. And the impact we create within not only Nairobi now, but nationally, putting Kenya on the map. In this year's race alone, we've got 96 nationalities. 96 nationalities have signed up for it. We are putting Kenya on the map.
Indeed.
So it's not just about, you don't look at it and say, oh, we are going to spend all this money. What is the impact on our bottom line? We don't look at it like that. We look at the impact we are creating in the society. As I said, our purpose is to be here for good. Okay. So how can you really make an impact that you're impacting the society in a very positive way?
So a different kind of question then. We're looking at the plans. We're looking at things that have been done over the last 20 years. We're looking at all these things that you've put together to then make Sunday a success. But what do you hope to achieve come Sunday and thereafter?
I think the first one is the runners to have fun. When I look at, I don't know, but if you've been looking in Nairobi recently, people have been running a lot. And when you ask, when you find them, they tell you, I'm training for Sunday, I'm training for 29th. So you can see people are very clear and determined to run. So that's the most important thing. Let them have fun. Come, enjoy your run. Others are running for their personal time, personal best. We call it the personal record. You want to make sure that you register your personal best. Whatever you're running, whatever the purpose for you're coming to run on that day, ensure that you have fun. I think that is very, very important. The second, we talked about the money we are raising for future makers.
Yeah.
That's our program for the impact that we want to create, whether it's on employability, education, and entrepreneurship. That's also very important for us. Third, we've talked about the trees that we are going to distribute, and we will continue distributing. We've set ourselves an ambitious target. How can we do 3 million trees? Marathon is one way of ensuring that this is an avenue for offtake of the trees, that the seedlings that we plant. That is something else. And then also is putting Nairobi on the map and Kenya on the map. So if we can rest at 6 p.m. on Sunday and all those things have come, with happy runners, people have broken their personal best, families are happy, you introduce your child for the first time, they've ran. It's a great day. Yeah.
Indeed.
Think about it. When else will you ever walk on Southern Bypass in the middle of the road?
Just like that.
Why would I want
You
to
could
walk
try,
on Southern
but I don't
Bypass?
know that you would come out alive.
That's why you should run, so that you don't walk.
There are people who look back and see the impact that these 20 runs have actually had. Looking at the seeing is believing, maybe others looking at the Future Makers program, but they are not able to participate in any of the physical races. So, this year they will not be around on Sunday, or this year, for whatever reason, they'll not be able to run. But they'd like to contribute to this program. How can they do that?
You can donate. So on the marathon website, there's a place where you can make a donation towards Future Makers. So that's also provided for.
So, and that's all you need to do.
That's all you
Just
need
go
to do.
there,
That's all you need to
click on the donate button,
And donate.
and donate.
Correct.
And that's it. Now, in between the races, this year to the next year, how else can people participate? I mean, if you have this community, 20 years in the making, people who know one another through the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Now we are talking about sustainability. They are looking at, we've got a tree, we've gone home, we've planted the trees. We are looking at sustainability in terms of recycling the plastics and also impacting community on the Future Makers program. In between, hakuna party hivi. People meeting, congregate, and say, "All right, so let's walk this time, or let's visit one person's tree. Let's."
We're always organizing events. I think immediately, for instance, after the race, there's always a time when Peter meets a local organizing committee and people start looking back. What do we learn? And then, as I said, you quickly you launch the next edition very, very quickly by April, isn't it? You start by April, you've launched it again, and then you have what you call satellite runs. Yeah. And then there are various programs that we continue running, especially with the elites and also the persons with disabilities. That is something we continue to do, because you can't start and then you only do it on one day. I think there's an event like this. It may be just one day, the physical event, but there's a lot that happens throughout the year. And then in between there are the programs that we run, whether it's the goal program that we for the disadvantaged young women in our informal settlements, that runs throughout the year. So there's a lot of other events that are happening. And what we've seen, something else I'd just like to highlight, is this year, when we were looking at the registration up to Sunday, 46% are women, which is, compared to where we've come from, it shows that we've seen that it's created that excitement, that movement is there now, where both genders now actively participating. To get 46%, it's only a matter of time, it will be a 50-50. That's the proper gender balance in a voluntary event. That tells you the impact it's creating.
How do you select the beneficiaries of the Future Makers program?
There are various partners we work with in those informal settlements. There are partners that we work with, and then they identify the places that they would like us to participate in. And then you gauge the need. You evaluate the need, because you can't be able to solve all of them. You evaluate the need that you see, these are the one we want to commit. So it's a question of working with partners, and then we select, they give us the people they would like to work with, and then that's how we commit and get into a partnership.
What if somebody wanted to contribute, not via cash, but via time and knowledge and skill?
That's good as well, because if you look at, for instance, the mentorships that we do for the Gold Girls and most of these events, most of the staff, our staff are the ones who volunteer their time. So it's either where they talk about financial inclusion, whether it's on adolescents and the challenges they are going through, or these are people who give on their time from the organization. And if anybody, sometimes we partner with others who would like to do it as well. So we're always welcome. We're always looking for volunteers to participate, to ensure that we are able to disseminate as much information and training as much as possible.
So welcome where? Walk into the nearest Standard Chartered branch and say, I want to volunteer. How do I participate?
Yes, there are various channels. We've got our social media channels are very, very active. So if someone wants to participate, they'll just reach out to us, and we can always let them know when is the next program that is slotted, and then we can get them know so that they can participate with us. Yes.
The Future Makers program, and even as we're running down the Future Makers program, is it something then that you see this will be carried over time? Obviously, you've talked about the successes of it, where somebody then has been able to, get a little bit of something, get educated, and then being able to start a business, for example. Is this a program now that will be carried well into the future? Because like you said, it started out with seeing is believing. It started out with, other health matters being taken care of. And then now going into the Future Makers program where you're building budding entrepreneurs. Will it go into something else, or does this look like a project then that can be sustained via the marathon futurely?
I think it's going to continue for a while. Seeing is believing. We had set ourselves a global target of $100 million. Once we reach that target, we need to do something different, and that's what we did. Future Makers is going to be the same. We've just now started, and those three pillars that we focus on: employability, employment, and entrepreneurship. That will always be with us. Those challenges will always be with us, and we've just now started 3 years into it. So I see it over. It's going to we are going to run with it many years. So that and then over time you're perfecting it. You know which is the best way of running the programs. Where are you creating the most impact? Where is the best place to intervene? Where does intervention work best? At what level? At what age? Which institution? We're just now starting. I think it's very, very early days. I see we've got a long way to go on this one to get to a level where we got to, like with seeing is believing. We got better with time with seeing is believing, and so will we with the Future Makers.
Somebody's asking, Peter, what's the winner getting?
Good. So total prize kit is 11 million. The winners of the 42 kilometers marathon, men and women, each get 2 million. And then it's different for different races. 21 kilometers is 300,000 for the winner, etc. So total kit is 11 million. If you want to really make a payday that day, come for the 42.
This is it.
Win it and you get 2 million.
2 mic and 2 trees. Something big.
One of the trees a fruit tree.
Yeah, it's a fruit tree. Bas. It's a big thing actually saying that, we're looking at having 25,000 tree seedlings distributed on that day, contributing towards greening the country as part of the big agenda of even the government. Let's actually make our country green again. And also looking at saying everything that will be consumed on the day, we're looking at how we shall recycle, how we shall make sure that we are not littering the environment. Asanteni sana for joining us this morning.
Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday.
Sunday we'll be there.
And may records be broken.
And you're doing the 21 kilometer. 5:30 a.m. is the time you report.
Thank you very much.
Shower. Yeah, those who are running at 21 kilometer, it starts at 6:30 a.m. Report at 5:30. Those who are doing the 42 kilometers, 6 a.m. Report at 5 a.m. 21 kilometer wheelchair race will start at 5:45 a.m. 10 kilometer race it's 8 a.m. and 5 kilometer race is 9:30 a.m. Well, keep it here for more conversations. Have a lovely morning. It's 8 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.